Hello there, I'm Raj Hans for Bible Harbor. Now here's a topic that has raised a great deal of interest and controversy over the years. Should parents spank their children? Before we continue to discuss this, I use the word spank in the title as that is generally what people refer to when they speak about this topic, but what I really mean is should parents discipline their children? As part of that discipline, is it ever acceptable to use physical force of some sort? I also know that the general consensus amongst many is that it is never correct to use physical force against your children. As always, let's take a look at what the scriptures say regarding this volatile but yet extremely important topic. In Proverbs chapter 29 verse 15, the rod and reproof give wisdom, but a child left to himself bringeth his mother to shame. Here the Bible says that the rod, which is a symbol of punishment, and reproof, which is explaining to a child what is right and what is wrong, together this all leads to wisdom. On the other hand, a child left to himself, that is, a child that has not been disciplined or reproved, brings his mother to shame. Apparently, God suggests that using the rod and reproving your children is better than leaving a child to himself. Honestly, any rational parent knows that this is true. I believe that many people have a problem with the idea of inflicting any pain on their children, which, as a father, I completely understand. However, we're not talking here about child abuse, but using a rod to keep children in line. It is not inflicting pain to cause damage, but just enough for a child to understand that the behavior they're exhibiting is not acceptable. Note the following very succinct statement regarding this from Proverbs chapter 23, verse 13 and 14. Withhold not correction from the child, for if thou beatest him with the rod, he shall not die. Thou shalt beat him with the rod, and shalt deliver his soul from hell. Rather clear, isn't it, that the whole point is not to beat your child to death or to act in any sort of uncontrollable anger towards your child. It is controlled instruction and discipline. It is the rod that helps to form the framework in a child's heart of what is right and what is wrong. It teaches your child that wrongful actions lead to retribution. In the end, it is helping a child to grow up and understand the redemption that Jesus Christ came to bring to mankind, of how he took all the sins, the wrongful behavior on himself so that we would not need to pay. He took not only the rod, but the thorns, the whips, and everything else that they threw at him. And that led him to a point where he was no longer recognizable as a human being, according to the prophet Isaiah. A child growing up must learn the difference between good and evil. And in fact, it's interesting in those verses from Proverbs, it says that by using the rod, you shall deliver his soul from hell. So what would happen if you didn't use it? I believe that it is very obvious from the current state of the world that there are a lot of children who were never reproved by their parents. Look at Proverbs 13. Whoever spares the rod hates his son. Whoever spares the rod hates his son, but he who loves him is diligent to discipline him. According to this, if you do not discipline your child, and especially in the earlier years, that includes the use of physical force, indicated here again by the rod, the verse says that you hate your son. By God's standards, if you love your child, you will discipline him. I am fully aware that society thinks completely different about this whole issue. Laws have even been made to prevent parents from disciplining their children. I am far more concerned about what God thinks than what the current prevailing attitudes of society might be. Wasn't it the society of the time that had Jesus Christ crucified? As parents who care for our children, we ought to take heed to the scriptures. We ought to be vitally concerned that they grow up understanding the difference between right and wrong, good and evil. We ought to make sure that they understand the repercussions of wrongdoing. God says that the rod and the reproof leads to wisdom, and that discipline and instruction will save our children's souls from hell? Do we love our children enough to take heed to the greatest Father of all time, or are we content to be brought to shame by the ungodly thinking of the world? The choice, as always, is yours. Will you dare to stand on the Scriptures or not? If you want to see videos on other topics, please be sure to drop by our website, BibleHarbor.com. May God bless you in your walk with Him.